Yeah. So today I want to talk about why I don't identify as Spanish, Latino, or Hispanic. Now the first one's the most obvious one. Spanish. I'm not from Spain. Like Spanish, those are people from Spain. Those are Spanish people. Or it's a language. So I'm not from Spain, so I don't identify as Spanish. And this is no disrespect to any people who identify as any of those three, or who are any of those three. Like, it's just me. I have the right. Every man has the right to his identity. Every man, woman, every person has a right to their identity. So I don't identify as Spanish at all. The next one is Latin. Now Latin, that was a language that was spoken by the Romans, by people in Italy. So, and again, I got a lot of Italian friends, dope as fuck, dope ass people, but I'm not Italian. You know what I mean? So why would I say I'm Latin? You know what I mean? Or Latino? Like, that's not me. Like, I'm neither of those. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't identify as Latin, Latino, or Latinx. Like, that shit ain't me. Like, fuck no. That ain't gonna. We ain't rolling like that. And the next one is Hispanic. To me, that's the most troublesome one. And the reason for that is because, like, there were tons of countries, like, that has a lot to do with the invasion in the 1500s, where, Hernan Cortez, a lot of other different conquistadors, and a lot of different what they call explorers, or just people trying to spread Spanish imperialism. Like, when they arrived and they tried to, they had their hand in genocide, ethnocide, and brutality, and forced assimilation. That was the main one. So they convinced a lot of native people to abandon their culture, to abandon their faith, their religion, to abandon their beliefs, so they could embrace that of European culture. So Hispanic to me is like paying homage to that, and that's something I can never do. Fuck no, like, that shit ain't in me. See, when I was a kid, I was watching this show on TV. They were talking about the difference between, like, black people and white people. It made me curious, so I asked my dad, "Hey Dad, what are we? Are we black or are we white?" Because, like, I'm medium skinned, you know what I mean? So I'm definitely not white, but I'm darker, but I'm not like that dark, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm not black, I'm not white, what am I? My dad's a little darker than me, and he's like, "Son, we're neither. We're Mexican Indians." So that's what he told me. So I grew up embracing that, believing that. And it was a trip, because when I go to school, like, for me, I didn't see the difference between Mexican Indians, or that's what I thought of them back then. Now I just call them, indigenous people or natives. So Mexican natives and American natives, I didn't see the difference. You know what I mean? Like, to me, they all look the same. We're the same. The only thing slightly different is languages, cultures, and shit like that. So when I learned about U.S. history, I would trip out, because I'd be like, they really leave out a lot of the history of native people, of native nations. You know what I mean? Like, where the fuck, where's that history at? So that shit kind of got me, like, more on the side of embracing my native side. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, fuck, this is crazy. Is Mexico any different? So I learned about, like, Emiliano Zapata, and how he was an indigenous man that was fighting for, he was fighting a revolution. But even then, like, if you watch TV, like Spanish speaking television, one thing you'll notice is a lot of the people on there are lighter skinned. Some of them, like, blonde hair and shit, you know what I mean? And that's just by design. So what they try to do is, like, you will hardly ever see, we'll just talk about Mexicans right now. You'll hardly ever see any Afro-Mexicans or indigenous Mexicans on television. Like, we are very underrepresented. And the reason for that is because they are still trying to forcefully assimilate us. So for us to abandon our culture or our roots is a way of just like still bowing down to Spain. That's why I never celebrate like Mexican Independence Day, because I don't believe Mexicans have really ever earned their or really won their independence. The reason for that is because they still, to this day, the majority of them embrace the Spanish language, embrace Catholicism, which is a Spanish fucking religion. That's what the Spanish brought that over, and they refer to themselves as Latinos. So basically, they're trying to say, like, this is the way I look at it. Like, they're trying to give us a European identity without giving us the benefits that a lot of European people receive. So, like, I'm telling you, look at the rulers of Mexico. Most of them are going to be lighter skinned. And even the billionaires in Mexico, like Carlos Slim, like, he's Lebanese. Salma Hayek, you know, she's Lebanese also. And it's a trip because they try to all mingle us together like there isn't a racial problem. But there's differences. Like I said, check out an Afro Mexican. He's not going to be treated, or he or she is not going to be treated the same. Like, they're not going to be given the same opportunities, especially when it comes to media, as somebody that's lighter skin, blue eyes, and all that. And even I would even hear growing up, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, look at, he has colored eyes. He has colored eyes." They'd be excited about that shit because they would think their perception of beauty has been altered to believe that like a Eurocentric identity and Eurocentric beauty is ideal. So you would hardly hear like, "Man, like look at those strong native cheekbones," or anything like that. Like, or look at those dark brown eyes. Like, look at that great like brown skin. You wouldn't hear that. They would say, "Oh, look at Juanito." Like, they would, like, older people would, like, they'd want you to be light skinned, to have colored eyes and all that shit, because to them that was a definition of beauty. To them that was their way out of poverty, you know. Like, and that's the way it goes. Like, you got to think about it. There were indigenous people who had to claim to be Spanish so they could move further. And then when they come to the US, like, they would have to do it again. So you would see them abandoning what they thought were their traditions. There's a lot of sellouts now that abandon their tradition, what they feel are their traditions, and that's where they fuck up from the beginning. So they feel like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Catholic and I'm Spanish, right?" And then they'll come to the US and they'll start speaking English, convert to like evangelical, which is basically the same shit. It's still Christianity, but they convert over. And to them, it's like, "I'm an American now." Like, they try to, and then people will be like, "Oh, you don't speak Spanish? What are you, a white boy?" It's like, you fucking, like, people don't understand. Like, to me, that's crazy too. You don't speak Spanish, you're a white boy? English is a motherfucking white language. Spanish is a white language. You know what I mean? That shit comes from Europe. So, to me, that always trips me out when people say shit like that. It's like, understand what you're really saying. Like, I know the majority of people in what they call the Americas are going to speak English or Spanish, but those are not native languages. And people need to realize who they are. What was the trip is I was always curious about this. So I wanted to see how native am I? Like, how much is that in me? So I took one of those DNA tests, and that shit came back as 58% indigenous. That's the majority of my DNA makeup. So I was right all along. Like, I've always believed I was an indigenous man. And it's fucked up because I feel like a displaced native. Because I don't even know, because I know my mom has native roots in her. My dad has native roots in him. I know my dads are from Mexico. But my mom's, I'm not sure if they are from the US, because her history goes back further. Her people were here before this was even Mexico. I mean, before this was when this was still Mexico, and California was still Mexico, they were here. And so it makes me, you know, I don't know her lineage. So I'm a displaced native, you know what I mean? And it's fucked up because of forced assimilation, because people are just so easy or will so easily embrace something else out of fear and for the benefit of prosperity, for a chance of prosperity, I'm left without, my original culture, with my original roots. You know what I mean? Like I don't know anything about them, and it's fucked up because I can't even hand that shit down to my kids because I don't even know. So I wish I did know. Like that's one thing I wish I could change. But one thing that I do know is I could change how I identify, and I could change how my children identify. So my kids, when we have to mark down, like, oh, sorry about that, you got the who's this, ambulance? Pigs. Yeah, when you have to identify on filling out forms, they ask race. I'll never put fucking Latino or Hispanic. Like I tell my kids, we're putting Native American because you give these, and that, even America, that's a fucked up term because that's after also a European, Americo Vespucci. Like he's also a European, so we kind of named our continent after him, or they named our continent after him instead of Anahuac. You know what I mean? But whatever, it is what it is. So they fucking for their purposes, they'll say race, and I'll tell my kids, just go with Native American because we are native to what they call the Americas. Like whether it be North America, Central America, South America, we're native to that. So I tell my kids, we're Native Americans. Don't put anything else. And if they ask for tribe, put Mexican or Mexica. You know what I mean? And that's how I identify. Some people even say, well, how are you going to identify as Chicano or Chicano when that's something very similar to like Hispanic or Latino? And the reason why I can embrace that term is because it comes from Mexica, Mexicano. You know what I mean? So I just say Chicano, Chicano. But I don't well, basically I'll always say I'm an indigenous man. I'm indigenous Mexican. That's what I am. You know what I mean? And like I said, people could say, nah, I don't agree with that. I'm Hispanic or I'm Latino. Hey, do you? Like that's cool. Like I said, every man has the right to his identity, and no one else should have the right to tell you who you are or what you are. Like that control should be left up to you. And that's just why I wanted to drop that video today. Friday. Everybody enjoy your weekend. I'm out. Peace.